Welcome to the 16th chapter of the book of Numbers. We have these million people out in the desert coming close to going into Canaan who have decided to not go in because they're afraid. After the 12 leaders, young men, went into the land and spied it out, came back, and 10 of them scared the rest of the people, and God cursed them for that generation to not go in for 40 years. So after that, we have this story of Korah. Now, where exactly this has happened, it doesn't have it in the timeline. If it's in the timeline and it's after that a rejection of going in, or if it's another time, but it is a interesting thing that happened. A revolt of the people had a book, or it's going to be maybe a book someday, called Theomachy, the wicked. Here we have all the different things starting in chapter 13, all the things that they did in here we're going to see with Korah, and then afterwards what the children of Israel do. I get back to it here. So it begins, and Korah spoke. He was the son of Izahar, the son of Kaath, son of Levi. Well, Kohath was hundreds of years before, but he was actually Izhar was an uncle to Moses and Aaron, brother of their father. His name was Amram. But they were Levites. This is basically what it's bringing out right here, the tribe of Levi, son of Levi. And Dathan and Abiram, sons of Eliab, and On, son of Peleth, son of Reuben. Now these others are not Levites. Dathan and Abiram, I believe, they're from Reuben, tribe of Reuben. And they rose up before Moses and men of the sons of Israel, 50 and 200 chiefs of the congregation. They're from all the different tribes. Doesn't list them, but they are from different tribes. Chiefs of the congregation. So it kind of says right there it's more than just Levites. 250 chiefs. So they come. They're summoned counselors and famous men. They stood together against Moses and Aaron and said to them, so now you can see this picture out here in the wilderness with all these men coming, 250, all coming to Moses' tent. Aaron's with them apparently, knowing that they're coming. And they said, well, let this suffice to you, seeing that all the congregation are all holy, that is separated. Everybody's holy and separated, and the Lord is among them. And I have this is because it should be italicized. Why do you stand against the congregation of the Lord? Basically, why do you put yourself up in front of the congregation? The congregation is more important than the leader here. That's how I see it. And Moses, in hearing, Moses fell upon his face because he's seeing another revolt. And he spoke to Korah, his cousin, and to all the congregation, the synagoguein, a synagogue, saying, God has visited and knows the ones being his, and the ones holy he led to himself. So being separated is the ones that God separates. It's not people who separate themselves to God. Now, you can look at that today, and I look at young men who go to a seminary of the different religions, different denominations, and so forth, and they decide that they want to be separated for the things of God. Well, their heart is in the right place, maybe not. But if God doesn't lead them to be doing it, and they're doing it on their own, then they're not really doing what God wants. He might say, well, I don't want you to become a priest or a minister or anything like that. I want you to work in Walmart in the electronics department. It's like, whoa, they would have a hard time. That people want to do what they want to do, especially young people. So but God set apart the Levites to himself, and here these other people were not. And whom he chose not to himself, he led not to himself. It would be the tribe of Reuben, wasn't chosen for this purpose. Okay, this you do, it says. You take to yourself censers, and those are these little bronze boxes where they put incense and a little flame underneath fire and burned them, and they swing them back and forth, and the incense goes all around. And I've seen them in the Roman Catholic churches and in Eastern Orthodox churches. It's pretty potent stuff. And anyway, you take these censers, Korah and all his gathering, all the ones with him, the 250, and put fire upon them. So, and put upon them incense before the Lord tomorrow. So they had this fire with the incense on top, and it was burning and smoking, and 250 of these would be quite a lot of smoke, a lot of odor. And it will be the man, whoever the Lord should choose, this one shall be holy. Now here is one of the places where, it could be separated, because that's really what 37, 38, and 39. I use the word holy because people are used to that, but it's actually separated. They're going to be separated. This one shall be separated, but it's not going to be in a holy way of you normally thinking in the religious, holy, good way. Let it be suitable to you. And that's important to know when you see the word agios, holy. Sometimes it may not be in the realm of something good, admirable. Though then he says, let it be suitable to you, sons of Levi. So the Levites that were there, Korah and others. And Moses said to Korah, listen to me, sons of Levi. Now he's separating the command or his conversation to these specific people, the Levites that were among them. Is this a small thing to you, that God separated you from out of the congregation of Israel and led you to himself to officiate the ministrations of the tent of the Lord, and to stand before the congregation to serve to them? Is that a small thing? And he led you and all your brethren of the sons of Levi with you. And do you seek to officiate as priest also? Now all the Levites weren't necessarily priests. Thus, you and all your gathering, the synagogue, are gathering together against God. And then the people from Reuben and other tribes. And who is Aaron that you complain against him? It's my brother, but who is he? No. And Moses sent to call Dathan and Aviram, the sons of Eliab, and they were the Reubenites. And they said, we do not ascend, basically, we're not going to go with you, Moses. Is this a small thing that you led us from out of a land flowing milk and honey to kill us in the wilderness, that you rule us and be a ruler? So they're going back and forth. Moses is saying it's a small thing for you to serve the Lord, to be separated. And they're saying, well, is it a small thing to you to take us out of Egypt? Everything was good. Back and forth. And into a land flowing milk and honey have you brought us, and gave to us a lot of inheritance of fields of vineyards? No, they're in the wilderness. Would you have cut out the eyes of those men? We do not ascend. And Moses was weighed down exceedingly. And he said to the Lord, do not take heed to their sacrifice. I have not taken the desire of any of them, nor inflicted evil on any of them. Don't listen to them. I haven't done anything, and don't listen. And Moses said to Korah, sanctify your synagogue, your congregation, separated basically here, and come prepared before the Lord, you and they and Aaron tomorrow. So Aaron is not necessarily, he's not with them, he's just coming tomorrow to Moses. And let each take his censer, and you shall put, again, incense upon them, and each shall bring his censer before the Lord, 50 and 200 censers. And you and Aaron each shall bring his censer. That's Korah and Aaron will have a censer. And each took his own censer, and they put upon them fire, and they put upon them incense. So they're all swinging these, coming there, 250 men, and Aaron's with his, and Korah's leading them, the 250 swinging these incense burners. And Moses and Aaron stood by the doors of the tent of the testimony. So now they're in that front of that tabernacle. I wonder if, so it's this large tent area, and then in the front door, this is where Moses and Aaron were standing. And Korah rose up together against them, the whole of his congregation, by the door of the tent of the testimonies, 250 men all coming towards the door, mad, upset. And the glory, the dokes of the Lord, appeared to all the congregation. So here comes that smoke down. And the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, and so they're right there at the doorway, and they could hear the smoke's on top of them. And then this voice comes out, saying, sever yourselves from out of the midst of this congregation, and I will completely consume them at once. He's going to completely consume the whole gathering. And they fell upon their face, Moses, and said, O God, the God of the spirits, the pneumaton, and of all flesh, if one man sinned, shall there be upon all the congregation the anger of the Lord? So apparently he was going to wipe out all the Jews, the whole congregation, leave Moses and Aaron, as he said before, he was going to do that. But no, Moses and Aaron coming and begging God not to do that. If one person sins, if only these people are sinners, you're going to take it out on all the people. And the Lord said to Moses, saying, now he doesn't say he's yes or no, but he tells him what to do. Speak to the congregation, imperative. Speak to them, saying, withdraw round about from the congregation of Korah and Dathan and Abiram. Get away from them. And Moses rose and went to Dathan and Abiram, and went with him all the elders of Israel. And he spoke to the congregation, saying, sever from the tents of these recalcitrant men, and do not touch from all as much is to them. You should not be destroyed together in all their sin. So the ones that are sinning, that are doing, the ones that are in revolt, something's going to happen. Get away. Don't be destroyed with them. So now, see, God is not destroying the all. He is allowing people to get away, just as he did in many other places, and what he's going to do, I believe, in the future with what's called the arpazo, it's in Latin rapture, the snatching away like an eagle and taking people away from the destruction that he will pour out upon this earth. And both Dathan and Abiram left from the tent of Korah round about. Now, doesn't mean that they went on Moses' side. I don't see that. It's a little confusing the way it says it, but and Dathan and Abiram came forth and stood by the doors of their tents, and their wives and their children and their belongings. But they're still against Moses and the things of God. And Moses said, by this you shall know that the Lord sent me to execute. So see, I have execute for 4160. It means to do. You could put to do all these works. I used execute here. That they are not from myself. You're going to know, it's not me. I'm not doing anything. If by the common death of all men these shall die, that means if they die in old age, and if according to the review of all men the visit of death shall be theirs in a natural way, then the Lord has not sent me. But if by a visible manifestation the Lord shall show, and the earth opening its mouth, and it's a figure of speech, shall swallow them, and their houses or tents or whatever they had, and their tents. So apparently they were even building these Pueblo adobe type houses, and all as much as is theirs, and they shall go down zonta, alive, into Hades, Adu. Then you shall know that these men provoked the Lord. Now, Adu, what is Hades? Hades was, this is a Greek word from the Homer, from the mythology, the mythological age of the Hades was a place, abode of the shades, and the shades were these beings that Homer had come up with, and there was a river also, and a boat that would take people when they die across the river. Oh, I forgot the river in Greek mythology. Charon, was that the man that had a name for the man who took people's boats? And it's all in Greek mythology. So it's interesting how and Sheol, I believe, is the translation from the Hebrew. So in the Greek, it uses a Greek mythological term for this place of Hades. Now, I made a book, if I find it here, on Hades, and here it is right here. It's a pamphlet type of a book, and I did these years ago, but I just redid this one. And basically, it goes through all the things about Hades. I'll just go through it a little bit here. Jacob mentions going into Hades. David mentions going into Hades. Job mentions going into Hades. Jonah mentions the belly of Hades. King of Babylon mentions Hades. The fallen morning star goes into Hades. The offending priest goes into Hades, ties into Hades. The apostate Israel into Hades. Pharaoh into Hades. The giants of the old went down into Hades. People of Capernaum in the New Testament, you, Capernaum, place raised up high into heaven, unto Hades you shall be brought down. For if in Sodom took place the works of power, the ones taking place in you, they would have remained until today. Then it has all these different attributes, the way to Hades, going into Hades alive, which was here, but in other places too. Turning aside from Hades is what we want to do, be delivered from Hades. Basically, that is where the person is going to go. I see Hades as opening up, and it's the ground, and people go into the ground. And the flesh was made from dirt. From dirt we were, and to dirt we will return. And so Hades, I believe, is in the earth somehow, because Jesus says the spiritual, when we're reborn, we're in the heavens. And the heavens are up above. I go up, down, down, down for Hades, up for heaven. Very simple. And so Jesus going up, we're giving a new spiritual body, which is apparently able to take a physical form where people can touch it, but then it can disappear again because we see Jesus having done this, and we're going to be like him. But Hades is the people that are going down and going to stay in the dirt or in the underground, if there is that. And then the ones in Hades, God knows. And then the Lord puts to death, and he brings forth the light. He leads them down into Hades, and he leads them up. And if they should be buried in Hades, from there my hand shall pull them up. And if they ascend into heaven, from there I will lead them down. God has control of where a person goes. Hades are the heaven. And then soul, life, bones, and flesh are in Hades. All these different places. But in Jesus, for your soul shall, Acts 2:27, for you should not abandon my soul in Hades, nor shall you give your sacred one to see corruption. So he may have went down into Hades and come back out. And then Acts, looking out ahead, he spoke concerning the resurrection of the Christ, that his soul was not left in Hades. So if it was not left, that means he went to Hades. Nor his flesh saw corruption, so he came out. Hades and others can apparently come out. Uh, and then it goes on down. And the place of sinners, let the sinners be turned to Hades. Place of the impious. Place of fools and mindless ones. Then the attributes of Hades, the separation. For there is no remembering you in death and in Hades, who shall make acknowledgement to you. Apparently, separation is going to be horrible for the people. Pangs of Hades surrounded me. Snares of death anticipated me. Pangs of death compassed me. The dangers of Hades found me. Hades and destruction are not filled up. Likewise also the eyes of the insatiable. It goes on and on. Heaven is high, what will you do in Job? The deeper of the things in Hades, what do you know? And then the place of Hades, it calls, there's gates in Hades. And do the gates of death open to you in fear? And did gatekeepers of Hades, in beholding you, become alarmed? And then the gates of Hades, assemble the gates of Hades, and the keys of death and Hades. So that's in Revelation. So there's keys to that gate of Hades. Then there's the lower Hades, as there is the higher heavens. For a fire burns away of my rage, God's rage, and it shall be burned unto lower Hades. For your mercy is great towards me, and you rescued my soul from out of lowermost Hades. Psalms 86:14 for David. Conditions of Hades. Hades and destruction are made apparent by God. And dead shall not praise you, and all these different things. Hades, wideness, breadth. Leaving Hades, man cannot leave on his own. I am as a cloud, Job. I am as a cloud being cleared away from heaven. For if a man should go down into Hades, no longer in any way should he ascend. And in Hades, having lifted up his eyes, being in torment, that rich man, Jesus is giving this parable, or could be a true story, he sees Abraham from far off, and Lazarus in his enfolded arms. And he, the rich man speaking out loud, said, O Father Abraham, show mercy on me. Send forth Lazarus, that he should dip the tip of his finger in water, should cool my tongue, for I grieve in this flame. And Abraham said, Son, remember that you accepted the good things of yours in your life, and Lazarus in like manner the bad. But now thus he is comforted, but you grieve. And upon all these things between you and us is a great chasm, firmly fixed, so that the ones wanting to pass over on this side to you are not able, nor the ones from there to us should pass through. Only God is able. Then the ransoming from Hades, except God shall ransom my soul from out of the hand of Hades, whenever he should take me. So Jesus is the ransom. O Lord, you led my soul from out of Hades. You delivered me from the ones going down into the pit. Oh, from the hand of Hades I shall rescue them. From death I will ransom them. Where is your punishment, O death? Where is your sting, O Hades? Where is your sting, O death? Where is your victory, O Hades? There is none. Hades is conquered by Jesus Christ. The finality of Hades. And I saw and behold a pale horse, and the one sitting upon it. His name was Death, and Hades followed after him. And the sea gave up the ones dead in her, and Death and Hades gave up the ones of their dead, and they were judged each according to their works. And Death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire. This is the second death, the lake of fire. And if any should not be found written in the book of life, he was cast into the lake of fire. Now, Hades apparently is going to come to an end. And what happens, we will find out. We will find out. So, now what happens? He says, if you go down into Hades alive, then you know it's of God. And as he ceased speaking all these words, the earth was torn underneath them. Can you imagine 250 people or more and their families and everything standing there in this wilderness, and everybody else separated themselves really far away? The ones that, something might happen, and all of a sudden the earth starts opening and it starts shaking, and all of a sudden opens up, and all these people start falling in it. What a horrible, horrible thing to watch. And the earth was opened, and it swallowed them and their houses and all the men of the ones being with Korah and all their cattle. Wow, all the cattle, all the people. And these went down, and all, as many as is to them, alive into Hades. And the earth covered them. Comes back again and comes back and stops, and they're gone. And they were destroyed from out of the midst of the congregation. Whew. It's just, either this happened or it didn't. Either this whole thing is all made up, or it's the sublime truth, which I believe it's the second. And all Israel round about them fled from their sound. They're screaming and yelling, help, help! Ah! I can imagine all these thousands, hundreds, maybe, who knows, thousands of people. Because it says their families, the 250 men, but it may have been many more. And so they're all falling in there and screaming and yelling, help! And who knows for how long this went on. The people are hearing all this terrible thing, and they're running as fast as they can to get away, saying, lest at any time the earth shall swallow us. They're running. Oh no, it's going to swallow me. And fire came forth from the Lord, and it devoured the 50 and 200 men of the ones offering the incense. So apparently they were there, and I'm not sure if they went down or they were staying, everybody else of the congregation, but the 250 stayed there, and then fire came down and completely wiped them out, turned them into cinders. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, whoa, speak to Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest. Do away with the censers from out of the midst of the ones having been incinerated. All these people were burnt to ashes, but yet their censers that they had in their hands were laying there on the ground, 250 censers, all laying there, but these people were all incinerated. So this alien fire there. For they sanctified the censers, separated the censors of these sinners by their lives. They paid the final price. They have been separated, sanctified. And make them into scales, hammered out for adornment to the altar. It's like fish scales, some type of a little scaly type of a thing. And so hammer them out, make all this bronze. And they were brought near before the Lord and were sanctified, made holy, and put oil on them or whatever they did. And they became for a sign to the sons of Israel, these scales, like fish scales. And they became for a sign to the sons of Israel. And Eleazar, son of Aaron, the priest took the censers of brass, halkah. We have the Chalcolithic age, brass age. As many as the men, having been incinerated, brought near. And they added them as an adornment to the altar, as a memorial to the sons of Israel, nailed them onto the altar, that not anyone foreign who is not should come forward from out of the seed of Aaron, which they were. There were some of them for Reuben, and they all came there to the tent to place incense before the Lord. They were not allowed to place incense before the Lord, so that he shall not be as Korah and the ones conspiring of his, as the Lord spoke by the hand of Moses to him. So they see these scales on the side. Well, I guess they really couldn't see them, but the priesthood and the Levites could see them that were there inside of the tent. So now it changes and a little, and it says, and the sons of Israel grumbled. And this was that second part I had when I went back there, that Theomachy, 1641. Now it says they were going to destroy them first, and now, again, these people just don't give up in their evil. And the sons of Israel grumbled the next day against Moses and Aaron, saying they just don't learn. They haven't learned today either, still against God, against Jesus Christ. You have killed the people of the Lord. And it came to pass in the gathering together the congregation against Moses and Aaron, that they advanced against the tent of the testimony. All these hundreds of probably people coming against them. And Moses and Aaron, we're in trouble. And thus, again, the cloud covered it, the tent, and there appeared the glory of the Lord. And what this glory was shining. And Moses and Aaron entered by the front of the tent of the testimony. They go inside of the tent. The glory is on the tent, and all these people are coming towards the tent. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Withdraw from out of the midst of this congregation again, and I shall completely consume them at once. Again, he's going the third time. I believe he's going to completely consume all the Jews. The Jewish nation would have been completely eradicated. And he would started a new one with Moses and Aaron and a few other people. And they fell upon their face, Moses and Aaron. And Moses said to Aaron, take the censer and place upon it fire from the altar and put it upon it incense and carry it quickly into the congregation and make atonement for them as a priest appease God. Do something. Just take the censer that you have, put the incense on it, the fire underneath it, and go run out into the congregation. And all these people running around there swinging this thing. And for anger came forth from the face of the Lord. It has begun to devastate the people. So all the people are starting to die. And Aaron took, just as Moses said to him, and ran into the congregation, for already the devastation had commenced among the people. And he put the incense and made atonement for the people. So wherever he was running through there. And he stood between the ones having died and the ones living. And the devastation abated. The people that were being devastated probably by an angel. And then Aaron running through here, we're all around, and everybody on the other side are not dying. And the ones having died in the devastation were 14,700, apart from the ones having died because of Korah. We don't know how many of those were, at least 250. 14,000 people dying that were destroyed. And Aaron returned to Moses at the door of the tent of the testimony. So Moses stayed at the tent, and Aaron's doing all this running around, and the devastation abated. Well, you'd think that would be the end of it, wouldn't you? Well, that's not. We'll find out how much further these people continue going, and recalcitrant people, boy, are they recalcitrant. We're recalcitrant too. If you're fighting against God and the things of God, and he's doing everything he can to bring you to him, me also. We are recalcitrant creations, and we need to listen to the things of God, what he has to say. Otherwise, devastation. Chapter 17, I hope you'll join us in the next video seminar. Until then, God bless.